You boy, bookmakers.com.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the LFC Daytrippers in association with bookmakers.com. I am Gav, that's Keith, this is Winners and Losers, and it's a World Cup edition, so there's only one man that I could bring on, and it is Keith, because his undying love for Argentina
Yeah,
was spilled out of him last night, and
yeah,
now he's back to tell us all about the World Cup. And I was gone. We could have had other guests on, we really could, but I thought, no, we just got the two of us because Keith's going to have an awful lot to say. Judging on the 8 minute answer he gave me last night at the start of the show, he may have an awful lot to say. But Keith, the World Cup
Gav.
itself, there's
Yeah,
been some really good bits of it. There's been some a bit meh on other parts, and that's mainly down to the teams. It's gone off quite well with regards to the organisation, stadiums, the football, the whole lot. Obviously, there's other issues there with regards to human rights and everything else, and we'll probably touch on that at some stage. But um, we've kind of picked three winners, three losers, but within those three of each, there's probably five or six things to talk about. Um,
yeah.
so where do you want to start? Do you want to start winners or do you want to start losers?
Um, we'll start losers.
Right. Okay. So
Why
the
not?
so the first loser you gave me was three of them. It was Germany, Belgium, and Spain. You had down as three
Yeah,
losers
yeah,
in this. And when I read it, I thought, Spain might have a chat about them, but the other two most definitely just never got going. And I have my own opinions on them, but go on, you shoot, because Germany, Belgium, Spain.
yeah. Well, I was thinking of the big European teams. Right, Italy didn't even make it. And I know France get to the final, and Croatia, the Netherlands get there. There'll always be European teams at the meaty end of these things. But when you go into the tournaments, you're looking at the big hitters, right, in World
Mm,
Cups, and you can never write out the Germans muck,
mm.
Belgium muck, and I think Spain were muck as well. Spain started off the tournament with something like a 7-0 win, wasn't it?
Yeah, against Costa
Against
Rica.
Costa Rica, and just never done anything after. And I was looking at that game and I thought, Jesus, these look okay. They've no striker, but they're playing well. And it just never really clicked for them after that. I was really, really disappointed. And I know, look, Spain got through, but I think that was a case of someone had to go through. Do you know what I mean? It
Mm.
was it was them, Germany, Costa Rica, and Japan in that group, and they got through because they went in Costa Rica, and I thought they were playing dreadful. And the big European teams did not take this tournament by the scruff of the neck, in my opinion. Obviously, as we said, Croatia got there. Croatia are a great team. They've got great pedigree, but they're not a traditional powerhouse. They're not a
Mm.
tradition, World Cup. They only formed in 94 or 92 or something like that. So, they're not exactly one of the big heroes. Portugal, flattered to the save as well. And a lot of that comes down to some of the other teams maybe being a bit more prepared. But
Before
I
before
was
we
just
go,
really disappointed with them.
well, before we touch on, before we go into a little bit into Germany, Belgium, and Spain in a bit more detail, I think it was Chris Brack said there. It might have been Chris. I'll tell you now who it was. Um, it was. He said Uruguay in the loser category as well, because
Yeah, I had
that
them there as well.
just on Uruguay just seemed to me like they didn't feel like playing games of football until they were behind. It was a bit mental.
Yeah. There was no cohesion with Uruguay. It's like he didn't have a plan. It was throw Suarez and Nunes in, throw Cavani and Maxi Rodriguez, not Maxi Rodriguez, what's his name? Fuck, I can't think of it. I can't think of it, Gonzalez or something. They were just throwing these lads in and didn't really have a plan. Now, when you look at the team that Uruguay had, I expected them to do really well because not necessarily because of Suarez or Cavani or even Nunes, but I thought Bentancur and Valverde in midfield were really, really exciting,
Mm.
really intriguing, really interesting. But they just never really got into it at all. And yeah, you could put them into the losers. And I would have had, there was more teams. I was just more looking at the big Europeans when I was
Mm.
throwing in them losers. But definitely Uruguay would go in there. Um, And when you think about it, right, Uruguay are in the group with, who are they in with? South Korea, Portugal, Ghana. Now, that's a tough group.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When you think about that, that is a tough group. There's no weak team in that. So there's probably no shame in going out, but they just never performed. Do you know what I mean? Like some teams went out, like Ecuador or another South American team. They were really good.
Yeah.
Came third.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? That they had a go and they were in their games and they probably punched above their weight. So, yeah, Uruguay could throw into the losers, but there was a lot of big countries that really didn't back it up. Whether it was down to poor management, which I do put down in Belgium's case because he's a blatant con man.
Spoof.
Roberto Martinez, he's a spoofer of the highest order, that
Yeah.
fella, and how he kept that job for so long is beyond me. Hansi Flick at Germany, look, I think he's a good manager, Hansi Flick, but they were blatant abysmal. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what I felt with Germany. Anti O'Chill says, Germany have absolutely disgraced themselves in his opinion. He's quite patriotic for both his countries. He's half German, half Australian.
Yeah.
And he felt so embarrassed by the whole political fiasco they brought into the tournament, which of course they put their hands over their mouth, didn't they, and stuff like that. But aside from that, right, for me with Germany, when I watched them, it's all right having favourites, but they didn't play players to their strengths for me. Like, Muller has been a brilliant player for Germany, right? But when you have the likes of Musiala, you have Gnabry, right? You see how much craft you have and pace that you have, right? And it just didn't knit with what Muller wants to do. Like, don't get me wrong, if Muller plays as a classic false nine and Gnabry's on one side, I can't remember who was on the other side for them.
Musiala.
Was Musiala playing left-hand side? So, now Musiala to me is more of feels to me when I watch him more of a 10, right? Just because of the way he plays, he's a bit more technical than absolute raw pace. But if Muller plays as this classic false nine, he drops in, he looks to knit things together, and he looks to get those two away. And I always think of it in the sense of Firmino at Liverpool with Salah and Mane either side of him. But Muller was just nowhere to be seen. No legs, couldn't press, couldn't hold the ball, and Musiala was trying to do it all on his own. And I was even looking going, just put a big fella up front. Put a big fella up front that's going to hold up the ball, get it to the fellas in midfield, and then play either side with Gnabry or whoever it might be. But for me with Germany, Keith, and I don't know whether you agree, they just seem to find themselves in a situation where Muller had to play and it hurt them massively.
Yeah, I like Thomas Muller. I think he's brilliant a good player. And he's always been a good player. He's only 33. I think he's like 38. He's been around for a long time and he has an Adam and Paul look about him. But he's a good player, but you cannot go in, and they went into that, I've just checked it there, they went into that first game, yeah, Musiala and Gnabry were playing wide of Thomas Muller, and Kai Havertz is in front of them. Now, I like Kai Havertz, I like Thomas Muller. You can't have the two of them as your strikers, because neither of them are strikers. Do you know what I mean?
Like, yeah, but the thing is, like Kai Havertz has at times played up front for Chelsea, right? So, he's a bit bigger than Muller, he's more paced than Muller. Like, he's a bit more of a 10 in my eyes as well. But if he's going to play a false nine, just, like, I'm not saying don't start Thomas Muller, right? But surely, Keith, half an hour into the first game, or even after the first game, you go, that's not working. And we get on to Argentina later. They looked at Lautaro Martinez and went, that is simply not working. And he just brought in Alvarez, and look what happened. That's for me where Germany just stuck with what they had, or stuck with what they were doing, and didn't look to change it enough for me.
Their squad was brutal. That's the thing with the Germans. They went in there and they were crying about, no Timo Werner. Now look, Timo Werner gets a lot of stick from Premier League fans, but he's highly rated in Germany. But they had your man Nicholas Füllkrug. Didn't know him, Werder Bremen striker, big lump, and he comes in against Spain and he looks effective because he's a target man. But they were trying to play a style that didn't suit them. Do you know what I mean? Germany, from as long as I can remember, and look, we're around the same age. You go back, Germany always had that sort of big striker, whether it was Klinsmann, whether it was Rudi Voller, whether it was Bierhoff, whether it was Klose. There was always a central striker that they built everything around. And even go back fucking 40, 50 years and you'll always find that. And they just don't seem to have it at the moment. Looking at their squad, they have so many players. You mentioned Musiala. I think Musiala is one of the best young talents in world football. He's fucking smashing, this kid is. Gnabry is a good player. Leroy Sané is a good player. But they just didn't have the right blend. At midfield, Kimmich, Gundogan or Goretzka, they mixed and matched with them as well. You know, that should be a solid midfield. That should be able to do the
Yeah,
business.
but if you have Goretzka and Kimmich, right? Just an arm say, if you have Goretzka and Kimmich, right, and you decide you want to play Leroy Sané left side, you want to play Gnabry right side, right, and you want to play Musiala in a 10 behind a Havertz, that means that you have pace, right? You have an eye for goal, and both of them boys off the right and left because they love scoring goals. You have Musiala who's you know, he can play out left, but he's playing as a 10. You have a Havertz that can drop in, right? So defensively, even he knows where to drop in, and he can actually occupy people. But I just think with Muller, it was just a case of he's standing up there, and they're trying to play off him, and teams just went, no, we're not having that. We're just going to smother him every time he goes near the ball, and he just couldn't do anything. Yeah, it was too easy.
It was too
Teams seen
predictable.
him coming.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, usually Germany stunk it out in the last World Cup as well, didn't they? They were bleeding brutal. Went out. South Korea, I think, knocked them out, didn't they, in the last game? But it's 2 World Cups in a row now that they've been absolutely poisoned. And I don't know, I haven't heard, has Hansi Flick, is he going to stay in that job? Because your man, Sniffy, fucking Yogi Love, he was there for fucking years, wasn't he? He was there for about 20 years.
Yeah.
Like, so they're not really in the game of chopping and changing too much, you know. Like, again, if we go back to Franz Beckenbauer managed them in West Germany in 1990, they only had a handful of managers, you know. So I don't know if they'll react, but it was poor, you know. And again, right, they're in with Spain, but they're in with Japan, they're in with Costa Rica. Nobody was looking at that as a tough group. Japan are a decent team. I like Japan, a decent team, but I wasn't
Germany and
thinking
Spain
that
should have gotten out of that group.
you were looking at it as the easiest sort of, right, them 2 will go through, and it was just bleeding poor from them. It was no plan. There was I know they get beaten by Japan the first game, and there's loads of chopping and changing. Then Flick was just there. Antio Child saying Flick is staying on till Euro 26, which is being played in Germany. Again, I think he's a good coach, Flick. I just think he's maybe a bit too loyal to some players. And again, Thomas Muller, I'm a big fan, but they need something else there. You know, there's players all over that team. Manuel Neuer, he gets played an injured skin now. He's out for the rest of the season. They have to look at eventually replacing him in goal. They at the back, like Sula coming in and playing right back's a bit weird. He's a big fucking heifer of a centre half. There just seem to be square pegs and round holes all over the place in that German team, and there was no machine about them. We all know, like, when we were again grown up, 1990 World Cup, Euro 96, they were a machine. They were always a machine. And wherever they came out, even 2002, they weren't great around them. They get to the final, Michael Ballack, you know, it was a machine again. And they just didn't, they've gone away from that. And it's sad to see in a way, because Germany are a big country and they always do
Keith,
bring a lot to the table.
But you wouldn't have put it past them to turn up at this World Cup, right? And go out and go, we're going to play like this. It's not the way we usually are, but we're going to absolutely drill ourselves in the way we're going to do this and get somewhere in the tournament. But you could see from the off, if they continue with Muller, it's just not going to work with the players around them. Look, we've touched on Spain. Spain get out of their group. They're knocked out then by Morocco, isn't it? On penalties. And they started off great, and then the lack of a striker, I think they just wanted to play too much football. And that's usually what Spain do. But I want to go on to Belgium because I said in the first game, Kev De Bruyne must be running around this place going, what's going on here? This is a fucking joke, because like they're slow at the back. They're pedestrian in midfield, and then up front they just look toothless for me. You know, and you have players that aren't in form, aren't playing for the team, and I go as far as Eden Hazard and all that, and you're just kind of going, it's a coin, and it felt like a bit of a farewell tour for me, for Belgium.
Yeah.
You know,
and Belgium started that, didn't they? They beat Canada in the first game.
But they beat Canada, but Canada
battered them.
Canada play on the halfway line. They're not concerned with Belgium running over the back of them, right? Lukaku doesn't play in that game. I think he's injured. Is it Mwepu? Is it? It's the guy up front.
No, it's your man that played for Chelsea. Batshuayi, Michy Batshuayi.
But there's a guy that comes on then, and he's a striker, and he's just fucking electric pace. But even at that, Canada go, we don't care, we're just going to play. And for me, it just felt like that felt as a spoofer. I completely agree with you, but it just felt a bit like a farewell tour, you know, like when you have like the 2 lads are centre back and you're kind of going, where is this going, you know? And even the players who are bringing on, you're kind of going, What, we've seen all this before.
I mean, I'll run through their first game right against Canada, and their lineup was Thibaut Courtois. And go, look,
Fair
goalkeepers can
enough.
go on, no problems
Yeah.
with Thibaut Courtois. He's one of the best keepers in the world, as we found to our expense in the Champions League final. Their back three was Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Den Donker. Now, Den Donker's the youngest in that gang by a mile, but he's not very blatant quick. You know what I mean? He's a big, slow, 27 years old. Just check there. You know, it's not there's no quickness there. There's no pace. In front of that, then they've Castagna off Leicester, they've Yuri Tielemans, Axel Witsel, and Yannick Carrasco. And so essentially, they're playing with a back three, two wing backs, and then Tielemans and Witsel. Now, Liverpool will link with Yuri Tielemans constantly, and I've said it, and others have said it. I don't think he's mobile enough, certainly not for the Jurgen Klopp team, right? He's a good player, he's a good striker of the ball, he can pass, he's a tidy enough player, but he's not mobile. And Axel Witsel is not mobile. And their back three aren't mobile.
34.
Yeah,
And
and
he's
their
playing
back
top
three
flight
aren't
football since he's
mobile.
about 17.
Axel Witsel, yeah, he's 33 years old. You know, he's got miles on his legs. But there's no mobility there. Carrasco on the wing is fast, right? So you can probably say Castagna is a bit about going up and down. But that's the back three and the two midfielders. So who have they got in front of that? They've got Kevin De Bruyne and their mate Eden Hazard. Now, Eden Hazard's the captain of that team. He's fucking finished. That fella's been finished for years. How's he even in the starting lineup? Never mind being the captain.
Like a farewell tour. It's like, you know, it's like when the Eagles come out and say this is the last tour, and then 2 years later they go, no, this is definitely the last tour. Do you know what I mean? And like, is
great analogy.
Is the other fella still in the job now? Martinez, is he gone?
No, he's gone.
Is he gone? Okay.
Yeah, he's
because
gone.
I pay as little attention as I can to that fella. Really.
Yeah,
but
he's a chance at that.
But the thing is, right? I don't actually, as much as I don't like him, right, or I don't rate him, I don't know if another manager could have done an awful lot with them, simply because of the makeup of what they are.
I don't think he has the balls to do it. Like, I'm looking at their squad, right, and on their bench for that first game, they've got Charles de Ketelaere, and he's the hot young thing at AC Milan, right? And Deja, take fucking one of them out and put him in for a start. Leandro Trossard is excellent. Yeah. Now he comes in.
And he's absolutely flying at Brighton, by the way.
Yeah. He's absolutely, he's a player that's on confidence. He's playing, he scores goals, he causes problems. Again, Liverpool have seen a fucking plenty of times this fella. Yeah, and he's hard. I think when I watch Brighton, especially against us, he's hard to pick up. He's a bollocks because you don't know where he's going to be. He doesn't stick to one position. He's always in between lines, whether it's between the blade and the fullback, centre back, whether it's between the midfield and the defence. He picks up these little pockets. He does everything that they think Eden Hazard can still do, and Eden Hazard can't do it. But they went with the big names. They went for the fucking big names instead of the hot hand.
But you're right what you're saying. You have to take somebody out. You have to take a Witsel out. You have to take a Hazard out. Or the other guy you mentioned in midfield, right? Tielemans. You have to take one of them out if you're looking to work hard, right? Yeah. So you either go and you say, right, I'm going to take out Eden Hazard, I'm going to put in Trossard, or I'm going to take out somebody else and I'm going to put in the Ketelaere, right? Whoever it might be. But he sticks with this, and it's like genuinely, it's like they didn't care. Now, Kevin De Bruyne doesn't cover himself in glory by any means, but I genuinely was looking at Kevin De Bruyne going, he looked to me like a fella after 70 minutes going, I'm running here, and nobody's helping me. You know, and the funny thing is, they're like 3 Lukaku misses away from getting out of the group, I think. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely insane, but he's gone.
But again, that dresses it up because they were poxed against Canada. Canada should have had 3 penalties. Like, they get one, Alphonso Davies. But they get should have had 2 stonewallers after that they didn't get. And they were absolutely steep to get that win. And after that, like, they just never fucking done that. And like, Morocco battered them in the second game. Yeah. Like, fucking slaughtered them. Yeah. And then the third game, Croatia, like, it's a damn squib. You know what I mean? They've nothing about them. And as you said there, they needed legs and energy in that team. So the simple thing is you take one of them midfielders out, as you said, you put Kevin De Bruyne back in there with whoever else is in there. So you're getting a bit of guile. And you put Trossard and the Ketelaere where Hazard and De Bruyne were. And you let them do the bits up forward. Instead, they had De Bruyne up there who looked disinterested. They had Hazard who was geek. And they had Batshuayi who was run around. But, you know, they weren't getting it to him. They scored against Canada from a long ball that gets them, gets him in past the defence. Their build-up play was atrocious. And they were the world number 1 or world number 2 going into this.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? These are the worst World Cup performances, in my opinion, and that I've seen in years.
Yeah, because you talk about golden generations, and England, that golden generation from 2002 or around that time, and England are, I think they go out in a World Cup quarter final, is it? Or last 16 to Brazil. It's the Ronaldinho thing in 2002, isn't it? But when you talk about this Belgian golden generation, I kind of look and go, if that's what you're holding up there as your golden generation, fuck me, you know what I mean? Like, literally turned up and had no ideas. They weren't willing to dog it out with anybody. They weren't willing to outrun anyone. They weren't opening teams up. It was just mad to fucking see. And you know what? It's going to take someone brave to go into that Belgium squad, to go in there and say to the likes of Witsel and Tielemans, and someone says there, Tielemans 25. He says Tielemans is 25 and has already played 500 first team games. He's been playing first team since he's a kid. He wasn't he? Who was he at in Belgium? He was with
Anderlecht, and he went to Monaco.
Yeah.
And he goes to Leicester on loan, and then Leicester buy him.
Yeah.
But he's got loads of miles in his clock. But if you look at that, Belgium are producing these young players, and they're getting it. They're playing first team football really young. Lukaku's playing for Anderlecht when he's 16.
But if that's what I'm saying, if they bring in someone that's brave, that'll turn around and go, right, listen, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Witsel, maybe that Tielemans, it's more how many games he's playing. Hazard, even Batshuayi, whoever it is, he turn around and go, listen, you might be in the squad, but you're not first choice anymore. These guys are coming through, and we have to reset here. But it's it was very weird to watch. One of your winners, Qatar.
Yeah, Qatar. Yeah,
did interest me when I'm.
Not as a team.
Itself.
No, not as a team. No, and not the sports washing thing. And look, we can all pontificate about it. It was a sports washing exercise. Let's be clear about that. The tournament started with the chicken shit captains, and I include our own Virgil van Dijk in this, absolutely terrified of a yellow card and not wearing their armbands. And look, people argued about this, and it's not political, it's not blah 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 blah. Qatar done that. They didn't want anything, nothing to do with the one love, nothing. Terrible. I'll never agree with that. And they ended the tournament by putting the gown on Messi. Now, people are losing their shit over this because they put this beast on Leo Messi as he's about to lift the trophy. Now, I didn't agree with it because I understand the sentiment of it. It's an honour to wear this. It signifies royalty and a warrior and all this sort of great warrior and all that. They could have put it on him maybe when he's getting the individual awards rather than no one's ever done on the lifting of the trophy. You know what I mean? But
no one's ever. From what I know,
people were putting stuff up about Pele in 1970 had a sombrero, but it wasn't when they were lifting the cup and he wasn't the captain. It was when he was getting carried around the pitch. But that beside the point of no sort of problem with, doing that. But for me, it was just a highlight that this is what it's all about. This was sports washing. Qatar were making sure that they were seen as the winners because let's be honest, that's the best World Cup in years. That is the best World Cup in years.
On the pitch.
And it's nothing to do with their organisation.
No. On the pitch, like we seen video footage before of like these fucking gazebos, like, with people, this is where you're living and stuff, or this is where you're staying and stuff like that. And then, in fairness, to be balanced, there was people reporting from Qatar saying, no, place we're staying is great. You're able to get a drink within your hotel, and it's, people coming back with real positive stories over their experience over there. Right now, your positive experience is tempered by what you're allowed and what you're not allowed to do. And if you stick within them realms, you'll have a good time. Very few people arrested. We've seen all that stuff come out, right?
And that's brilliant.
But I agree with you on the captain stuff, right? Because wearing an armband like that is not political, right?
Yeah.
It's just not political. If I don't know, like if you turned up in America in 4 years and had an anti-gun armband, would they stop you? I don't think they would. The sort of way. And look, I agree with you on the thing. The captain should have all just come out and said, we're wearing them if we want.
Yeah.
And in fairness, Virgil van Dijk, Harry Kane, I think maybe Hazard, couple of the bigger countries, but they probably should have got all together and said, listen, we're all wearing them. Qatar won't, but we're all wearing them and see where it goes. You know, the sort of way. But
Just
do
Europeans, was
you
it? Was
think
it just Europeans?
do you think Qatar comes out as this as a winner though?
I
Because
do, yeah.
I think on a footballing sense on the pitch, I'm looking at that World Cup and going, that's a brilliant World Cup. But I don't even think about Qatar.
I
And
know, but
I kind of walk away from it going, yeah, it was a great World Cup, but Qatar still fucking whatever this, whatever that. You know what I mean?
when I put Qatar in as a winner, it was sort of tongue in cheek, nearly, in the sense that they achieved, I think, what they wanted to achieve. They got rid of the one love stuff. They weren't going to have a bar to that. It was a success in the sense that there's no hooliganism, there's no drunkenness, there's none of that. That's all brilliant. That's the laws. If you have a World Cup in a Muslim country, they're the laws of the land. They changed it at the last minute, which was shady as fuck. But, you know, success in that sense. The fact they got that robe, that bished on Messi at the end that's what they want. That's what sports washing is. Qatar look fucking brilliant. This has been great. And I wanted that World Cup to fail because of the treatment of same sex couples. I just don't agree with it in any way, shape, or form.
And as
People
well
get
as that,
annoyed with that.
and a big thing is the workers that build the
Yeah,
stadiums
migrant, but
and
that's
what's
without
going on.
even getting onto that, the
Yeah.
amount of people that died. And I was on Twitter the last few days, and people were trying to say, you know, oh, well, what happens if in America, if someone in 4 years and they put a cowboy hat on the winning captain? Well, America already held the World Cup, and they didn't put a cowboy hat on fucking Dunga when he lifted the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? So, again, it shouldn't have happened, in my opinion. I understand why they wanted to do, but that to me was Qatar. The Emir of Qatar, I don't know the chap's name, saying this is what we're going to do that. And it was probably done, maybe it was done with the right intentions and the right thing and all that. And I can understand Muslim people appreciate this and respect this a lot more than we do here. We don't understand the traditions, but to me, that was the sort of Qatar making sure that they got that stamp on the World Cup. This was a brilliant World Cup. That's the best World Cup final you see in fucking God knows how long. It was the fairy tale World Cup. I had everything. And the reason I put them as a winner was because they went and came out of that where people are talking about the best World Cup, the best World Cup. To win that World Cup, it shouldn't even have been happening now. You know what I mean? They done everything to get it their own way. And I think they're going to come out. There's too many people driving the propaganda that it's been a great World Cup because of Qatar. It hasn't been a great World Cup because of Qatar. It's been a great World Cup because the winter element of it, well, I don't like winter World Cups. Players were going in there fresh in the middle of their seasons. They were hitting the ground running. That's what I found was a big plus. They weren't going off in training camps and this shit and all that and easing their way in. They went in and they hit the ground. And I felt that what I did, it was a very good World Cup on the pitch. But I think Qatar will be remembered. I mean, again, look, I know I love old stuff, history and all that. The Russia controversial World Cup, the most controversial one was Argentina in 78. Because there's a military junta going on there and they're a military coup. They're killing people, any people that are dissenting against them, they're killing them, they're disappearing them. And that is still spoke of as a shady tournament and one that...
And the FIFA documentary that came out recently is...
Yeah, they don't hide the fact. Yeah, they don't hide the fact that that happened. And I think Qatar will probably have that, whether it's right or wrong. Look, the no alcohol, the no violence, the no hooliganism, that's so bleeding unique in an international tournament.
Yeah, but you see, that's where I think the line is kind of greyed on traditions. Like if I turn up in Qatar, right? If I turn up in Qatar, I know I can't do A, B, and C, right? I don't know what you can do walking down the street with your wife or girlfriend, whatever it might be, right? And obviously homosexuality and stuff like that, right? And you know, there's certain aspects of it where you go, that's tradition and that's the world you're in, okay? But at the same time, the FIFA World Cup is turning up in your country, which means that the world family of football is turning up. So you have to respect the whole family as well. Yeah. Like, you know, it'd be like, look, it'd be like going back to fucking, you know, the 20s in America, and America turning around and going, well, no black players can play in it. That's their tradition. No, you know, they're only slaves here, right? So that's their thing. And that's we're never going to turn up and play in that World Cup. You know what I'm saying? Now, by all means, respect tradition and don't be going over to be an arsehole to get yourself in trouble just for the sake of it. But at the same time, if a player wants to turn up with a certain armband on because it's the family of football, you know, I'm sure there was plenty of gay people at that tournament. You know, they can't outwardly be gay in that country. And listen, if that's the way it is, that's the way it is, right? But at the same time, if you're bidding for this World Cup, right, FIFA and the world should be saying to you, well, listen, hold on. And it's not just Muslim countries, by the way. It could be something in America that they're just mad about, or Canada or Mexico, whoever's holding it next, right? Where, listen, hold on, just to let you know, all these people are going to turn up. You're going to have to relax a little bit on this. Otherwise, we can't bring the world game to you.
Yeah.
Because then it's not the world game, is it?
Russia were dragged over the coals over it as well.
Yeah, but it's a fractured game then. It's a fractured tournament then. And you know what?
People get annoyed about it and say it's virtue signaling. It's in the chat there. It's virtue. It's not virtue signaling. It's right. It's correct. Do you know what I mean? It is the world game. It is the people's game, and everyone should be allowed to do it. And wearing a t-shirt or wearing an armband or wearing whatever, you don't want to ram these things down people's faces, and you do have to respect these the rights. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it has to go two ways. Do you know what I mean? There has to be respect for everybody coming into the country, and there has to be respect for people going into a country. And that's where I think it fell down. But I think Qatar come out of this smelling of roses because, again, nothing to do with their organisation of it at all. But it was exciting. I had action, I had drama, I had the fairy tale.
It'll definitely go down as one as where, you know, people go, "What, wasn't that a great World Cup? Oh, the Qatar World Cup was brilliant." But I don't think it'll be like, it wouldn't be like, as an Ireland fan going, the 1990 World Cup was great, wasn't it? Because we all had a fucking great time. It'll just be because it's actually the opposite. Ireland played horrific football. We just had a great time. Whereas, you know, I'm sure countries this year, I've seen their country play great and just kind of not happy with what's gone outside of the stadium. To put it kind of that way. But all right, I'll let you go with Qatar. Let's stick with a winner though. African football.
Yeah,
because Morocco
again.
I just
Africa and Arab football, right? So, look, we all know Africa, it's a huge continent, obviously, but there's different sort of layers to it, and you've got your North Africa and sort of Arab side of it. And for Morocco to become the first team from Africa to get to the semi-final, I thought it was brilliant because I think they deserved it. I think they deserved it. It wasn't a case of them scuttering their way. And I know there was games when they didn't really play the ball and didn't want to know. But they worked their bollocks off, and there was something about them. There was a vigor, and verve about them. And I really, really enjoyed watching them all the way through that tournament. And I was hoping they'd get to the final and get battered by Argentina. Don't get me wrong, but I was hoping they'd get there. But the fact they got to the semi-final was huge. You know, an African team to get
France,
there.
by the way.
Yeah, 100%.
And the thing is, like, people go, oh, like, Shawnee didn't like them at all. Shawnee was like, no. You know, they're this and that. But the way it is, right, we're at the time about Germany, 20 minutes ago, and we're saying Germany turned up with no plan and didn't try and put anything into place. Morocco absolutely did. Morocco come in and went, they were so well drilled. Like, when they didn't have the ball, they were so well drilled. Like, up until that semi-final, I think the only goal they conceded was an own goal. Right?
Yeah.
It was mad, right?
Crazy.
But they were so well drilled, and on top of that, they had players up the top of the pitch that were, some were physical, some were brilliant footballers, and the likes of Ziyech and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some of them are just fast. And they had a lovely mix where they all them lads that were fast and physical and technical got back into shape and made it so hard for you. But it wasn't like they were just sitting back going, I'll just sit back, and don't attack. Every chance they got, they went for you. You know what I mean? Because they were confident they were going to get themselves back into shape. That was it. If you want to go up that way, fine. But you better get back here, or someone is going to have a severe word with you. And the likes of Hakimi, they were brilliant.
But you know, they done it with their defence was like a blade minefield. The players were getting injured left, right, and centre. And they were having to take out,
Sass made it to the semi-final was beyond me.
He should have been out 2 games before that. And the other fella, Aguerd, as well. And they were both injured, and they're bringing in their third and fourth choice centre-backs, and one of them only had like about six caps. And they were playing Mazraoui as well as playing left-back, because Hakimi's just an absolute savage at right-back. He's coming on and plugging in and out with the other left-backs. They were absolutely putting plasters over their defence all the way through it. And they were fucking deadly. They had energy. And look, another, surprise package for me was obviously Saudi Arabia. They don't do anything after the Argentina game, but they played with that pace and that sort of momentum as well, in the sense that they were quick, they were hungry, they wanted to do it. And I thought this was a big tournament for the sort of Arab and African teams. And, you know, none more so than Morocco. It's a fairy tale stuff. The fact they got to there, you know, it's we look back. So the famous one was that Ghana were robbed by Luis Suarez, and I'm going to be honest, hands up, one of my favourite World Cup moments ever. And that's no disrespect to Ghana. It was just the absolute shithousery and win at all costs of Luis Suarez is just brilliant. Morocco got there. They deserved it. They were playing great stuff. They were hard to beat. And to see them doing it, it just put, and that's why, you know, the World Cup was excellent, because I think someone said in the chat there, it could have been Rory, said, you know, the group, last round of the groups was great, but the knockouts were terrible. I didn't think so. I think there was the Morocco story and all that was driving it through, and there was other games, there was little stories all over the place, and they just had so many little fairy tale moments in there that they, you know, we spoke about Ziyech. He's a quality player. Hasn't done it at Chelsea, but he is a quality player. Bit of craft about him. Hakimi played lightning quick. Shawnee's mate in the midfield, Amrabat, who he played and threw under the bus, thinking it was his brother.
Yeah, the Watford fella.
Yeah. You know, he was good, but they had other lads. Your man, Owen, was that his name? The number 8, the midfielder. Yeah. And he's playing somewhere played in Scaldi in France.
Yeah.
Quality. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, just all action, no stop. And I just thought he was playing. And your man's goal as well, in the series, the Portugal game, when he does a Ronaldo, basically, he's about playing 8 foot in the air.
It was ridiculous.
And he's just getting, and now the keeper was Gick, we know that.
Yeah.
But
he was up
it was just, yeah, he was up so high, hanging, and he's not a great striker, you know what I mean? His goal record isn't great, but he ran the fuck out of himself.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was epitome. The epitome of Morocco in this tournament was hard work and just never stopping. And like I said, I was gutted they didn't get past France in the semi-final. I thought they were the better team for most of it as well, to be honest. But, you know, semi-final, a great return for them, and, you know, a victory for, as you say, African and Arab football. I think that was certainly a highlight of the World Cup for me.
But we've seen in 2010 when South Africa got it, and, you know, it was a massive thing for South Africa. Not only because it was an African World Cup, but what had gone on in South Africa for the, you know, 30, 40, 50 years previous. To then turn up with a World Cup was ridiculous, like to see. And it was a, bar the Vuvuzelas, it was a really good tournament. Yeah, but to see it in Africa, I thought was brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And we seen people thought that as the new dawn for African football, you know, and it kind of hasn't gone on. But I think what Morocco's done there is they've showed that if you turn up, now don't get me wrong, they've really good players. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. If you turn up and back yourself to be solid and brave to a certain extent, where when we win the ball, we're going to try attack, but we're going to absolutely give every last sinew to get back and cover ourselves, because that's what it was all about. If you watch them, they break, right? And as soon as that ball goes out and it's a goal kick or the keeper gets it, they're all back in position. Yeah. No one's switching off. No one ever switches off from Morocco. They're back every single time. So but
as we said about other teams, Gav, the ones that didn't have a plan, that didn't bother their arse, that went in there thinking they were Billy Big Balls and just got thumped. Morocco organisation just fought for each other, the pride, everything else. It was great to see. Loved it.
Was great to see. You will have noticed at the very start and on your screen at the minute that we have got a new sponsor for the channel. It is bookmakers.com. Now, when we take on sponsors, some people like them, some people don't like them, all right? It's hard to get sponsors that everyone likes. The first thing I will say is, if you don't gamble, that's absolutely fine. If you do gamble, always gamble responsibly. Bookmakers.com are not a bookmakers. They don't take bets. What they do is they give potential customers the best place to go if you want to gamble. Okay, so you can go on to bookmakers.com. There's a lot more to the site actually than just going in and going, oh, where can I get the best sign-up offers and stuff like that. There's so much stats and stuff like that in the Premier League, which I was looking at earlier, and they can give you the like I can try to show you here as to what it looks like. But I kind of really enjoy going through this website earlier. So you can go in here and you can go to the likes of Premier League lineups, and you can go down here and you can have a look at Liverpool's stats. It gives you all the stats on Liverpool, where they are many games they played, goals conceded, red cards, possession. We'll show you offers with regards to if you want to sign up for one of these. Gives you the best. They're playing Villa obviously on the 26th, and it gives you the best offers where you can get on a home win and away win and stuff like that. So, but what I would say is that they've been very good to us in helping us with regards to what we want to build and how we want to get bigger and bring you more content and stuff like that. So they are going to be our sponsor for the rest of the season. I'm really excited about since talking to them as to what way we're going to go with this. But as I said, if you don't gamble, absolutely fine. If you do, please gamble responsibly. And if bookmakers.com interests you with regards to gambling or finding out stats. Do you know what I found with it today? I was looking it up, and you can get the stats on certain players, right? If you go into Liverpool, you can get stats on Liverpool players, like goals, assists, whatever it might be. I was actually looking at players going, oh, could I put him in my fantasy football? So that's where I kind of got into that. But everything is covered on it. If you want, go and check it out, bookmakers.com, and they have got their own YouTube channel as well where they preview football, golf, horse racing, all that sort of stuff, and we're going to try to get involved with them once a week with regards to previewing some Premier League stuff. So there you go. Go and check them out. Let's get back to some losers though, Keith, because losers are the ones that kind of annoy us. So there's two left. Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil went into this tournament as the favourites, right? And they had people were constantly saying of the best squad, the depth is there in every position. Brazil. I thought they were fucking brutal. Really disappointed with them, and I'm a bit of a touch of the Roy Keane's about it. They looked
really solid throughout, and just looked like you could go up the gear if they wanted to.
But they didn't go up the gear. That's what I felt with them. There was always I don't know, they were always flattering to deceive. Look, I cannot stand Richarlison. He makes me skin crawl. I don't like him as a human being, as a footballer, anything. And the fact that he's Brazil's main forward just fucking irks me, right? He was good in this World Cup. He scored some great goals. But I just felt he went in as the favourites, right? And they were going in, and a bit of Roy Keane's in it. I don't mind the little celebration when you score a goal. They bleeding overdone it in that South Korea game. And the fact that Richarlison was having a dance and then went over to have a dance with the manager, I'm like, this is doing my head. I want these fuckers out of this quickly. Quick, sharp, get them out. So me and Roy Keane are in the minority on that one. You know, the fucking mood hoovers that we are, get the fun out of this, get the thing out. But Brazil, for me, going into every World Cup, are always, you know, up there as the highlight. Whoever they are, whatever team they have, you're always looking for that. And Neymar, he splits opinion, but he does have a bit of magic about him. Nah, not for me this time. He scored a nice goal against Croatia and all, but there's just something, you know. Owen Burke there, Richarlison and Anthony, two very unlikable characters. Yeah, you know, there's a few in that squad that I'm not too fond of. I think they went in. Marquinhos is good. Thiago Silva is a decent player. You know, he's still good for his age. The fullbacks didn't do anything for me. The midfield didn't do anything for me. And their forwards didn't do anything for me.
I thought he looked. Sometimes you can be roped in too much on the whole samba football stuff, and you're waiting to see that. Yeah. And if they don't do it, you're kind of going, well, this isn't Brazil, right? And that's fair enough. If you've watched anything like the 1970 World Cup, like, ridiculous, right? And, you know, World Cup since. But I kind of looked at it when they won their first two games, and I think they played, was it the first two games they won? And then they go and they change it around. And I was kind of looking, fuck me, they have strength off the bench. As much as you mightn't like Anthony, he looked good, right? You had the guy that's with Barcelona now, Rafinha. You know, you had all these players, and you're kind of going, Jesus, you know what? They have strength, you know, and game changers off the bench. And it was just like, I got more confident over Brazil as the group went on. And then they come out of the group, and you're kind of thinking to yourself, these would be really fucking good, because they haven't hit any sort of gear. They've looked fairly solid, fairly robust. They have got game changers, and if they can click it up a gear or two at the right time here, they'll be tough to beat. But they should beat Croatia. But Croatia just stick in there and stick in there and stick in there, and Brazil just don't have an answer. And when it goes down, and then I always fancy Croatia in the penalties. They beat them on penalties, don't they? Because I always fancy them, because a bit like last night when I went to penalties, I actually fancied France in the penalties despite Enzo Martinez because
Did you? Oh,
yeah,
we'll get
yeah.
on to that.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because the pressure on South American sides to win the World Cup is unreal. I was only saying it to my daughter here yesterday, who's kind of got into football. She's not. She kind of likes football, but she really got into the World Cup. Kind of what games on tonight and who are playing and stuff like that. She's never done that. But I was trying to explain to her that listen, France are under pressure, but trust me, the pressure is tenfold on Argentina. The same way it would be with Brazil, and that's why I fancy Croatia in those penalties because I just thought Brazil's players will just have the weight of the whole country on them, whereas Croatia's, yeah, they'll have pressure, but you know, if we win, great. If we lose, look, that's the way it goes. You know, for a country so small, but yeah, maybe they just flattered to deceive at the right time.
Yeah, and I just, it seems harsh. I've seen worse Brazil teams than this, but I just felt that they were sort of all fork out and no knickers about them. Like there was loads of dancing, there was loads of chirping, and loads of this and that. But they weren't great. Do you know what I mean? Like they weren't great, and I didn't like their squad. Allison's in goal. I didn't fancy them in penalties. I was out on my Christmas Day looking at that, and I said at the start, I said the Croatia keeper's having the game of his life, and Allison's not a great blatant penalty goalkeeper. So that's why I put it down. I always look at the keepers and these things, and what can you do? But I do agree. There'll just be pressure on them. You know what I mean? The pressure on some of these teams is huge. But I just think this Brazil team, TJ goes in there, and yeah, everyone's talking. Like there's this argument that Messi, Ronaldo, blah, blah. They're trying to make one with Ederson and Alisson. There's no comparison there. Alisson is fucking light years ahead of Ederson, so you can put him in there. But I just felt that squad could have been better. I think players didn't get enough minutes. I think they switched them all up, don't they, in the third game, and they get beat. Lads get fucked under buses and all that.
They do get beaten, but in the first half of the game, they look. I thought they looked really good.
Yeah.
In taking that for what it was. Third group game, you've made a load of changes. I thought they looked really bright, and at times they were so good in transition, and it was like Jesus Christ. If you drop one or two of these into the actual first 11 in a game where you need to win, they look like they can make an impact. But like you said, I just think if it gets down to a really tight spot, and it comes to Brazil and Argentina, that's all my only doubt over them. Is just the pressure is so fucking big on them that it can go either way, and Brazil failed. Last loser, because I leave the last winner to last. Right? Gareth Southgate you have down as a loser.
Oh, I can't fucking stand him.
Now hold on, is this you just wanting to give out about him, or you think he's a loser?
He's getting kept on, right? He's getting fucking.
Oh no, they've let him take the decision as to why he's doing.
Yeah. Like I think this England team, right? Talk about that golden generation a few years ago, Beckham and Gerrard and Rio Ferdinand, actually great team, right? Great team. They were up against other great teams, other great players that were always just too good for them. They never really got to the meat and veg end of a tournament. This team are getting to semi-finals and finals. And to me, Southgate's tactics or selection is what always lets them down. He's not brave enough. He's a coward. He picks favourites that are nowhere near form. And forget about Trent Alexander. I can understand why he doesn't play Trent.
Trent should be at that tournament.
Yeah, well, if I was Trent, I'd retire till he's gone.
No, not even. No, listen, I've two sides of this, right? I think Trent should have told Southgate to fuck off a long time ago. When he left him out of the squad at the time and made it his business to comment on Trent and nearly pat the fella on the head and say to him, listen, you've nearly won he's more or less won everything you could win, and saying to him, oh, well, maybe in a couple of years you'll be good enough to. I would have told him to fuck off. And listen, people would say, well, it's your country and stuff like that. Yeah, it is my country, but I'm not playing for him, right? Because he's a toe rag, right? But on the other side of it, I think if you're basing it on form, and I'm putting this up against the Harry Maguire argument as well, Trent shouldn't be at the World Cup. No. He has not been good enough for Liverpool this season to turn around and say, bring him to the World Cup. And people will say, oh, but hold on, that his form hasn't been great, but he could do something. He's not going to do anything because he's never going to be brought on. He's brought on in the third group game for about fucking 12 minutes, and that's only because I'll just throw him on, right? We're through. That's all he got. Trent should not be at that World Cup. And this is where, for me, Southgate, Maguire doesn't have a terrible. He doesn't have a.
Maguire plays better for England than he does his club football.
He does.
He's one of
he
them.
does. But the thing is, you're talking about bravery here, right? Now, bravery means that you're going to let your midfield play football and you're going to let your fullbacks attack, right? Any centre half can look good, Keith, if your two fullbacks are fucking glued to their side, right?
Yeah.
And your fella at the midfield is glued to the front of them. Anyone can look good, Keith. Anyone.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I do. And I can understand with the Trent thing that, you know, Trent, whether we like to admit it, or a Liverpool channel or Liverpool fans, he's a system player. You know what I mean? And the system at Liverpool is built around more so him than Robertson, but they're not conventional. Robertson's more of a conventional fullback, an attacking fullback, but a conventional fullback. Trent isn't. And I wouldn't expect a cabbage like Gareth Southgate to understand how to use a player like Trent, because he's not a fullback. He's not going to sit in a back four and, you know, be solid in his battles. We've seen him do it fucking loads of times, but Southgate wants more than that. He wants Kyle Walker to be recovering, to cover for his other players, and that's what he wants. But I can't get over the fact that Phil Foden isn't pivotal in that team. Do you know what I mean? I just can't get over how. And look, we can all, Man City, I don't like him. Phil Foden, don't like him. You know what I mean? Like, I think he's a little chipper. He's a great player. He's a great player. And it's all well and good saying, oh, we built it around Jude Bellingham and we built it around individuals like Harry Kane, blah, blah, blah. You have Phil Foden there, who's one of the most exciting English talents from an attacking point of view that you'll see. And he's out of that team for Raheem Sterling right now. Raheem Sterling, I'm sorry, he doesn't do it for me. He's on a bleeding downward trajectory, that fella.
But the thing is, Keith, Gareth Southgate walked himself into a situation when he was asked why he didn't pick Tammy Abraham.
Yeah.
And his reason behind Tammy Abraham was, he's lost a bit of form over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
And straight away you're looking at Trent, you're looking at Harry Maguire, and you're looking at others.
Yeah.
Right? And you're saying to yourself, well, hold on, he's lost a bit of form. Kyle Walker hasn't been playing for Man City, he's been injured. So how are these? Don't get me wrong. If you'd have turned up a Harry Maguire and Kyle Walker, for argument's sake, and not played them from the start, you'd have said, well, look, yeah, they've been out of the team, but they've done well from in the past, so he's keeping them there. That's a sensible thing to do. But he completely negates his argument when he turns up and plays Harry Maguire. And listen, Harry Maguire does absolutely fine, but the problem is beyond Harry Maguire. It's what you're doing to compensate for player A, B, and C. Phil Foden ends up coming on in the first game, and I think he ends up starting every game since after that, right? And my opinion was, the further England go, the more impact Phil Foden would have on this. But they just stuck him out on the left, right? With a fullback that didn't want to support him. So he's literally against two fellas all the time. And Declan Rice, he should have started Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham as a two midfield and put Foden ahead of them, right? Because Declan Rice, for me, doesn't play well in a six on his own. He's lost. No. He's hovering around. Whereas when he's with Souček at West Ham, he has that side of the pitch, Souček has that side, and they work between them to cover it. Rice, particularly when England had the ball, just didn't impress me at all. But you could probably give him some credit, Keith, that he was a bit braver in saying, right, let's try get Bellingham released in midfield by bringing Henderson in instead of sitting two in front. But it's just all over the place for me in what he wants to achieve with those players and where he's putting them, and he doesn't react. They're actually the better side, and they go 2-1 down, and he doesn't react properly. Like Grealish is coming on with 90 seconds left. What's the fucking?
And whether you like Grealish or not, you're bringing him and you're bringing James Maddison in your squad, and you're bringing them players because they're craft and they're guile, and that they can give you that little bit of sparking you need, and he doesn't use them enough. And look, it's his job, it's his gig. He'll say, you know, the results have gone up since he's gone into that job, but they're getting to the point where they should be. I mean, that home Euros, they should have been winning that. You know what I mean? That was a bleeding disaster class. This World Cup, rarely see an easier group than what they got. And then Senegal in the next round, you know, that path was just boom, boom, boom. And every time they come up against a proper bleeding side, they can't get over the line. And you're right, they were better than France. They were better than France in that game. And that was there for them. But he doesn't have he's like Roberto Martinez for me. He's holding back a team of players that should be getting more out of them, because he doesn't have the minerals himself to be getting over that line. But I just find him. I think he's a manager who holds back his talent, but because he's getting, he's doing a 7 or 8 out of 10. It looks good for him, and that's all he cares about. Do you know what I mean? He's a self-preservation merchant, and I don't know. I'll just never. I'll never give credit for him because I think he's holding back that group of players. And look, they've a young group of players. I hope he gets a 10-year extension and ruins them, because I don't want to see them winning the World Cup. But they have a seriously talented squad and players coming through. And, the right manager there can do serious damage. And he's not it.
What I'm saying is, my thing on it is, right, Megan says Southgate's loyalty to certain players will be England's downfall. He won't get the best out of Trent, Foden and whoever else, right? But my whole thing on this is, I'm not telling you if Kyle Walker's a bad fullback, right? He's a good fullback. He's lightning fast. He's okay going forward, but he's able to carry the ball. He's really good, right? But what I'm saying is, if you want to serve as Harry Maguire or Harry Kane, right, and you want your wingers to be killers, right? What you need is supply from your fullbacks or centre of the park, right? And I'm not telling Gareth Southgate to go. I don't give a fuck what Gareth Southgate does, to be perfectly honest with you. But I'm not telling Gareth Southgate to go and do what Liverpool do. But if you look at the way teams play football nowadays, when they're brave and they can just overwhelm teams, it's what Man City and it's what Liverpool do, right? Because they're your two biggest examples as two English sides, right? They fullbacks that want to go. Like, Walker plays fucking right midfield for Man City.
Yeah.
And Cancelo on the other side is like an inside left, right?
Yeah.
And Phil Foden is in that team, right? And then you have Henderson in a team where Trent plays, right? So if you turn around and you say, listen, do you know what we're going to do? We're going to go with Trent and we're going to go with Chilwell, right? Who both love to get forward, right? Okay, there might be an issue there because Harry Maguire is really good if we have two in front of him, but we might do something else. Fine, go and play Tomori, right? Go and play someone fast. And in front of them, you don't trust Declan Rice on its own. Okay, put him in beside Bellingham, because Bellingham is able to play, for me, in my opinion, he's able to play in a two and go, oh, you want me to link up with Trent down the right here and Foden coming off and Kane going this way and or Saka or whatever it might be. They would demolish teams, right? Yeah. And the big fear in the back of his head is, when he loses the ball, can we get it back? Trust me, we watch Liverpool play and you watch Man City play. They don't care about losing the fucking ball because they absolutely annihilate teams to the point where all teams want to do is get rid of the fucking ball, right? Yeah. And I know you're coming up against good international sides. I get that. But trust me, in an international game, right, if you are playing that much football and you are so on top of these and you've so many threats, right, where their wingers having to come back onto the edge of his own box, because if he doesn't, Trent's taking that ball and he's putting it on people's heads all day, and Chilwell's quite good with his delivery as well. They can't be in two places at once. So if your team's willing to work, if England are willing to work hard going the other way, they'll have most of the ball. But I'm telling you, he'll stay on. You won't see Trent playing. He'll stick with what he has, and he'll just hope that one day that ball might fall for him. And that's his whole outlook on this. A ball might fall from him. Whereas if he took the initiative against France and went, I'm bringing on Grealish, I'm not even saying Trent Alexander-Arnold. If I bring on Grealish and I bring on another player, whoever it might be, and I'm going to go for this, right? He would have beaten France. No doubt in my mind he would have beaten France. But that's what they're with. You know, they're saying, oh, we got to a quarter final, we got to a semi-final. Yeah, you did. You did, yeah. But nothing came out of it. And the funny thing is, right, Jurgen Klopp loses finals for Liverpool, and that same media will tell you he's a loser, he's this, he's that, he's a bottler, he's everything else. But Gareth Southgate got us to this, that, and the other, as if they're like a fucking team or a country with 1 million people in it. You know what I mean?
Like Morocco, for fuck's sake.
And it's absolutely it's mad for me to look at. But listen, that's where they are. Right, winners. It's just Messi and his mates.
Yeah, but there's loads of them, and that's the thing. Yeah, it's not just Messi. I gave you a fucking list, didn't I?
Yeah.
So the big winners of the tournament is Messi, right? Because it's what the thing is all about. It's what football's about. It's what fandom is about. It's what we watch football for. We enjoy football, is to see players like that, players like Maradona, players like Pele winning the big one. And make no mistake, he's up there with them. Now, it's not just Messi, because if we're being truthful, Messi's not the player he was. You know what I mean? He's not running. He's conserving energy. He's he's quite static when they're in defensive positions. But he comes alive, and that's what he's brilliant at. But if you look at that team, we spoke about this before on this show, on this channel, numerous times. Emi Martinez coming into goal for Argentina is the biggest thing that's happened to them. It's the biggest thing that's happened to Messi. And all you have to do is watch Messi when they're playing games. If they win in penalty shootouts, if they makes big saves, he's always over to Martinez, because he knows a good keeper can do fucking wonders for you. And they've got him now, and we've seen it in the final. He just gets in players' heads, whether you like him or not, you think he's a wanker or not. He gets in players' heads, and he's absolutely elite. He is elite. I'd say he's the keeper you'd least like to be facing in a penalty shootout. If you're playing them in penalties, I think players are half beaten when they're going to penalties. I'd say when they're all talking around and they're saying, right, I'll go first, I'll go second, I'd say it's like, for fuck's sake, get them short straws out here, because I'm only going if I have to go, because this fucker... I hate to see players missing penalties and shootouts in World Cup finals, especially, because they can get absolutely pilloried. Gareth Southgate being one. When Tchouaméni went up to take that penalty, and I'm
I actually
looking
said
at
it to
him,
everyone here, he's missing.
he is missing
He
this.
had
And then
way too long to think about it.
Emmy's in there throwing the ball away on him. He's in his face. He's doing
But that's
everything
what
to
we
him.
were watching it here, and I said to everyone in the room, I said, he's missing that penalty. It's taken way too long since the last penalty for him to get that ball in the spot. Never mind take it. But the other thing about that is that, we speak about Alisson all the time, and when players are one-on-one with him, and this big fella, all dressed all in black, comes out, right? Like the bleeding milk tray man coming out with you, right? And he's making the goal so small, and you have to hit that square of the net to beat him.
Yeah.
That's what's happening with this fella in penalties, because they're all saying, I usually just put a foot inside the post with power and I know I'm grand. And they can't. They're trying to absolutely put it in certain squares of the net. And listen, he doesn't have to make saves then, because he knows if they go, 1 degree the wrong way, either side, it's either going wide or I'm getting my hand to it. You know what I mean? And it's all in his head. I think he was absolutely huge. But talk to me about the midfield.
The big boys, in the penalty shootouts, the likes of Mbappe, and he nearly saved 2 Mbappe penalties in the shootout and in the first one, because he guesses the right way. If any keeper doesn't go the right way, he's never going to make a save. But when he's guessing the right way, it's not the big players that you get in the head of. It's not the Mbappes, but it's the others below that, and that's where he plays and gets them all the time. He gets in their heads, and it's just so hard. But he was brilliant for them. We're going to go Messi again in a minute, but he was brilliant for them. Their midfield,
which they change around after the first game, by the way.
Well, they get beaten by Saudi Arabia, and in that game they start off with Paredes, DePaul, and DePaul, and I'll have to check that out. Papu Gomez plays, but he's up front. Papu Gomez, Messi, and Messi, Papu Gomez, and Di Maria, and then Lautaro Martinez is the centre forward. So, it's. I was looking at that and I'm like, this team looks a bit bleeding. But anyway, they play. They're not great. And Scaloni makes the big calls. We spoke about this last night. He's not afraid. He takes out Paredes. He takes out Papu Gomez. He takes out other players. Lautaro. That's a big, huge call to do that. Let's be honest. It's a big call.
But he not only takes them out, Keith, right? He takes them out after they're beaten. So it's easy for a player, or those 3 or 4, whoever's taking out the turn, go, I'm being made a scapegoat here in Argentina by this fella, right? It's easy to say that. But when you look at them, they all turn up in the tournament, game on game as subs, and absolutely run their arse off. Yeah. And John says it there, Scaloni seems to have a great team spirit with the Argentina squad. Trust me, there's a vast majority of squads in that tournament that if 4 players were whipped after the first game because you lost to Saudi Arabia, they'd all be crying and moaning, and it'd be being leaked to the press, and it'd be fall asunder. He seems to have got it where, one, he finds the right mix, because I think Enzo and DePaul and Lex McAllister were just played lovely football at times. You've seen it in the goal they get against France in the final. but they absolutely are willing to go to war against you. And that suited Messi in particular down to the ground, because he knew he had three fellas behind him that were just going, every last sinew was going on getting anything they could out of that midfield and getting it to the boys up front. Alvarez is huge as well. That changes huge.
100%, yeah, 100%. Owen Book says it there. Rodrigo de Paul gave everything throughout the tournament. He deserves it as much as anyone. And I couldn't agree more, because I'm
Went in
looking
with an
at their
injury.
team. Yeah, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know about the Paul. I think he's one that could be out of that team, blah, blah. He fucking runs his arse off. He's a dope he's not afraid. And when I say he's a dope board, I just mean he's not afraid to do the dirty work, the graft. He takes a lot of kicks. He's in there. You know, he's in the battle all the time, and he's just brilliant. But when they found that sort of that midfield three, Enzo Fernandez, and look, Enzo Fernandez is a brilliant player. Alexis McAllister is a brilliant player. These were inexperienced lads that came in. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like he's bringing in safe bets when he's putting these boys into the team. Like, Enzo Fernandez is a player that I'd class as a number 8 type of midfielder. You know, box to box, can do bits. He was brilliant as the deep line midfielder. Fucking brilliant. Safe as houses. Pass the ball. Fearless with it. And when they had to switch him in game from the 6 to the 8, he's just switching it to the 8, and such a good technician and tactical player. No bounds about it. I love him at Liverpool. They see the links all the time. It's one that excites me. But
The one thing I did know about him was I think we've been in the Croatia game. Yeah, they're 2-0 up, I think, and Enzo Martinez, I think he does switch from that deeper role, and he goes a bit more forward, and he breaks twice, and kind of hesitates a bit, and I'm kind of going, maybe he's just a bit more suited to being deeper, maybe it's a bit of tiredness, but you could see it in him, his running power. You could go by a player, you know. I thought McAllister would just never stop. The Paul never stopped, and you have to remember, you were talking about Messi slowing down. He's 35, and that's absolutely fine. But you look at the work they put in. No one outran Argentina.
No,
nobody ran over the midfield. So you actually had 3 in midfield there, right, that were doing the work of 4 men, because Messi was still hanging around in that inside right channel. You had whoever on Di Maria or wherever on the left. You had Alvarez. Alvarez never stopped, in fairness to him.
Yeah.
But the work them 3 put in to compensate for the fact that Messi's not going to charge around and tackle for you, and then being able to get it to him. You can tackle all day, but if you can't win a ball and be able to play angles and play little balls around the corner to get Messi on it, it's pointless. You're only fighting off. You're only firefighting. But I just thought that midfield was unbelievable. But
the midfield was brilliant. But you know what? I'll say, and Shawnee Lawson was on social media today talking about this fella, Angel Di Maria. Angel Di Maria is one of the best players of the last 15 years, one of the most clutch players of the last few decades. He comes up in the final and scores.
I know he does.
And what Di Maria does is the hard work. It's the shit that you don't see. So if you have Messi up front not running, you can't really afford to have another one up there not running. And that's where I think Papu Gomez was never going to fit into that team. You know, the mobility just wasn't there. You can carry one, you can't carry more than that. That goal that Di Maria got in the final, he got the goal that won the Olympics for them, and he got the goal that won the Copa America, and he scored in the World Cup final, and he was the man of the match in 2014 when Real Madrid won the 10th Champions League. I think he's a fucking brilliant player. I think he's so underrated. I think he's so important to them because he does a lot of the covering, and even in the final, I thought he was brilliant. And when he went off, not that he went off, I think the substitution in the final was a stupid one. He doesn't have it in his legs to do that much running for 90 minutes. Yeah. But to bring on a Cunha, it didn't. It was a bad decision by Scaloni, that one.
But that was his move most of the time.
Yeah, but not usually for Tagliafico. He usually switches his fullbacks one to the other, and the same on the right backs. Molina and Montiel would be.
But he ends up really with 2 left backs down that left hand
side. And Acuna is the more attacking one. I just didn't think he got into the game at all. But Di Maria, the goal, Liam Brady, I was watching Liam Brady after.
Yeah, he said it's the best team goal you've seen in the World Cup.
Yeah, and you think about that, and obviously the best team goal you'll ever see in the World Cup is Brazil in 1970 when Carlos Alberto scores. It's a magical goal. But Brady was right what he was saying, because it's one touch. The only one that's not one touch is Messi. And that's because he just flicks it up and then flicks it, and it's a magical 2 touches that he
Yeah.
takes. But it's so quick, it's so incisive, and it's summed up Argentina for me. Do you know what I mean? It's Alexis McAllister. Let's be honest, he's come out of nowhere. He's absolutely come, and he's Irish as well, so we'll take him. He's come out of nowhere.
Right.
He's set one up on a play for Di Maria. I was chatting online earlier, and I think could have been Stephen Murphy was asking, did he mean the finish? Did he mean the finish? Of course he did. Balls of steel. Angel Di Maria does not play and mess about. He's the man you want on the end of them.
But the funny thing about the goal is we're talking about how hard they work, right? But if you watch that, France have the ball in the left back position. They're pressed, right? It's knocked in towards the middle of the park. Argentina win it, right?
Yeah.
So Argentina's midfielders are pressing this. Comes into the midfield, gets to Messi. He flicks around the corner. Who's gone running? McAllister's gone running. Now McAllister's probably the man pressing, and now
Alvarez, is it?
Or Alvarez. But what I'm saying is,
Messi to Alvarez,
yeah, Alvarez then onto McAllister. What I'm saying is the press is there. So that midfield, not only you'd forgive them for being behind Messi and going, right, we're protecting us, get it to Messi, and then the lads will do all the thing. But they press, they win, and then he's gone beyond them. He's actually gone beyond them to give it to Di Maria. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's. I just thought they were brilliant. But listen, we're running out of time. So, Lionel Messi. I think
4 hours on.
Now listen, I can't do 4 hours, but myself, Shawnee, and Veranda Cheese are having this argument like weeks about is he the best, is he not? Veranda Cheese stands by the fact that he thinks Maradona is the best player that's ever played the game, right? And he sticks by it and stuff like that. I think what happens there on Sunday crowns him as the best player that's ever been. And Shawnee has said, no, he's the best player that's ever been, regardless of what happens Sunday. Yeah. And you can absolutely be with that argument. But for me, I think it ends it. The fact that you can't hold any fucking tournament against them now. You can't hold anything against them. The longevity of it, the goals. Now, I don't know. I think I've seen something like... Did someone say he's played 1,000 games?
Yeah, he played his 1,000 game during the World Cup.
Where has he played 1,000 games?
Club games. And he's playing for Barcelona since he's fucking 18.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, anyway, maybe
and he plays. He's one of them. It's like Salah with Liverpool. Plays every game. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't get injured.
I just think the longevity of it, the individual awards, the teams he's been in, the things he's won, the fact that he goes and does a Copa America and then follows up with a World Cup. I think he's the best player that's ever lived.
I think he's the best player ever, and I agree. That doesn't.
And you adore Maradona.
I adore Maradona. I adore Maradona, and that's the thing, right? So we done a show a few weeks ago about Liverpool greatest ever players, and I put Kenny Dalglish ahead of Steven Gerrard, and I sort of said, like, it's held against Steven Gerrard that he didn't get that Premier League title. You know, he slips against Chelsea and he doesn't get that, and he gets held against him. And whether he's it doesn't make him any better or worse. You know, that doesn't make Steven Gerrard a worse player or a better player. He was fucking an elite player. Messi would have had that held against him as well if he didn't get over the line in these international tournaments. People used to, and forgetting about Maradona, like what does my head in is the Ronaldo debate, because there's no debate there. Do you know what I mean? People used to shite about, Ronaldo done it in different leagues.
I think Ronaldo was one of the best goal scorers you've ever seen. And I think Messi is just all round, he's just the best player you've ever seen.
But Messi's goal ratio in his 1,000 games is better than Ronaldo's. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Ronaldo has a few years before he really kicks in.
But that's what I'm saying. I think when I look at Ronaldo, if Ronaldo remained as a wide forward and done them sort of numbers, you go, that's fucking scandalous. But he doesn't. He leaves Manchester United within a year or two. He's in 2011, I think he's a centre forward. So he's been a centre forward for 10 years. Half of his career, more than half of his career. You know. So.
And in fairness to Ronaldo, you know what I mean? He's 38, 37, 38, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, he scored a lot of goals last year for United. Yeah. Doesn't do the play. Scored a lot at Juventus, but wasn't improving the team. And that's where it falls down. He's all about, he'll get his, the team will suffer. You know, they say, you know, Messi didn't go out of Barcelona. And then he went to Barcelona, but it's the PSG, it's a Farmers League. But they would crow about Ronaldo going to Juventus when they'd won 5 Serie A's on the trot. You know what I mean? Like, so players are not stupid. There's only certain teams these lads can go to. So they're not going to bleed.
Part of me is, though, right? I think that does crown him as the best player that's ever played.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand Maradona played for slightly lesser teams. You see what he done at Napoli. You know, he's in decent. I think it's a good Argentina team in '86 when you look back at it,
Yeah.
right? But you know, it's probably 3 or 4 years for me where you see Maradona as, you know, brilliant.
86 to
Five,
90.
maybe 5 years, right?
86 to 90.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, when I look at Messi and what he's done, and people would say, "Oh, he's at Barcelona." Yeah, but he's gone through quite an evolution at Barcelona. He's
Yeah.
gone through the likes of Rijkaard, and you know, there's been loads of different variations of Barcelona,
Yeah.
and he's just being the fulcrum for them. But at the end of the day, right? If you said to me, "Do you want to sit down and watch fucking videos of Maradona or Messi?" I'll just go, "I'll just watch both because
Yeah.
like, they're outrageous." Like, and genuine, I could watch a 3-4 minute video of Maradona tomorrow and go, "Oh, hold on, he's actually fucking," you know what I mean? Like,
Maradona's amazing.
maybe the comparison is too much. But another thing, Keith, and this is what I wanted to bring you on to: the expectancy on Messi with that Maradona shadow hanging over him
Yeah,
from literally
exactly.
the
That's
start of his
it.
career, right?
Yeah.
I think
That's
that's
the
probably
one.
what seals it, actually. The fact that he's actually done this with Maradona on his shoulder for his whole career, I think that just shows what he
Yeah.
is.
Well, you see, that's it. Look, Maradona came through with Argentinos juniors, and he's only a kid. He's 16. He's in the first team, and he doesn't make the 78 World Cup. I think he's 17 at that stage, and there's outcry because they know this is the new Pele. This is the next Pele. But the scrutiny wasn't there. The social media wasn't there. The media in general wasn't what it is now. Now, people always use this argument, and I don't like this argument. Yeah, but Maradona was getting the shit kicked out of him. That was the times. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was, if you drop Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo or Neymar or any of these modern players, and they grew up in the 70s into the 80s, they'd be getting kicked and they'd be playing. They tailor the game the same way Maradona playing. The people say, "Oh, Maradona on these pitches not being protected." 100%, he'd be brilliant. And would he have fallen down the traps of the cocaine and everything else? Maybe not in the modern game with the scrutiny that's there. But Maradona's peak, you know, he does it in Argentina, brilliant. He goes to Barcelona and he never lives up to the hype there, and he breaks his leg, and it's fucking butchered. It's butchered, the fella does. Goes to Napoli, and not that too much gets made in Napoli because they weren't. He goes there in '86, I think. After, is it '86 or he goes before there? But he win the league at, I think, '86, '87. And it's a team of all Italians. You know, it's not a cosmopolitan team. It's all Italians. They win the league. They win it again a couple of years later. At that stage, Careca is there, Alamea was there. Good Brazilian players are in that team. You have to remember as well, Serie A, you can only have 3 foreign players back then, 2 or 3 in the team. Like, so it was predominantly, you know, Italian players. It was a tough league. Hellas Verona won that league in '85. The only time they've ever won the league. So people use the argument that, oh, Napoli got them from nowhere and they won the league. Hellas Verona won it in '85 with Preben Elkjær, Danish striker, and Hans-Peter Briegel, German guy at the back. It was a great show. I'm not trying to diminish the Napoli thing, but I think people overhype it maybe a bit. He done brilliant. He carried them. Not only did he win 2 league titles, they were there or thereabouts as well. Do you know what I mean? They were challenging AC Milan. It was tough. So I'm not trying to diminish what he done, but it's over by 1990, 91. Do you know what I mean? 1990, really, it's over after the World Cup from. So it's such a condensed, short period of time. Now, as God-given talents, and what I think it is with Maradona, everyone loves a rogue. We all love a rogue. I'd rather go for a point with Maradona than Messi.
Oh,
Do you know
7
what I
days
mean?
a week, twice on
Yeah.
Sundays. Yeah.
Do you know? So I think that plays into it. He's the street baller. He's a flawed character, and we all love flawed characters. Let's be honest about what we do. But Messi has played, not even from day one at Barcelona, from fucking day one at Newell's Old Boys when he was 12 or 10 or whatever. He's been the next Maradona, the next Maradona, the next Maradona. And so many players have done that. And we've seen it crush players, great players. Ariel Ortega, the next Maradona, crushed. Great career. Riquelme, the next Maradona, couldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like, so it's heavy as the blade and short. Never mind heavy as the crown. Like, heavy as the number 10 short at Argentina. And then Messi comes along, and you're talking about 17 years. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think this is his 17th season, and he's winning the World Cup. And he's not just a passenger. Do you know what I mean? He's not winning the World Cup while everyone else is doing the work. He's played the tournament. He won the golden ball. He deserved it. He's still producing magic at this age. It's just different magic. it's more controlled magic and maybe less frequent than it
But
was.
it's very similar to what you're saying with Maradona, because like I see massive comparisons with Messi and Maradona, and it's easy too, because Maradona, you know, if you go back to '86 and that goal he scores against England, not the first one where he out jumps Peter Shilton, but the second one, right? With the second one, right? And then you look at Messi. There's one he scores for Barcelona where he gets around the right wing and he just goes past a lot of
the exact same carbon copy.
Yeah, and he goes around the keeper and he scores, right? And all these comparisons, left-footed, that balance where you can go by either side, you know, can see a pass, everything you can see. And the comparisons are there. And, you know, it's hard at times where you look at the pitches in the 80s and the 70s or wherever it might be. But for me, just, I think overall with Messi, what he's achieved in the game, how long he's achieved it, and what he has had to follow.
Yeah. Every day.
Makes him, I think he's the best.
I think he's the best.
But I'll happily watch. I'll happily sit there with 6 cans and watch an hour of Maradona with you.
Like,
do you know what I mean?
think, you know, Pele as well Pele was an absolute pioneer, and he gets forgotten about all the time in this great. The three of them are the 3 greatest players ever to do the game, and it's a cyclical thing. Pele comes along. Everything every player does now, Pele done 50, 60 years ago. You know, overhead kicks, Rabonas, you fucking name it. Pele is doing this in the black and white days. Maradona follows on from that. But Pele's the clean cut, wholesome, you know what I mean? He's the stand-up guy, whereas Maradona comes in and, you know, Bertie Vogts, I never get this right. Bertie Vogts, Keegan's pocket, said Maradona used to be the halftime entertainment as a 10-year-old, and they delayed the second half until he done all. So it's from a kid, you know, Maradona was just put out there, and the pressure on him was huge. But it was a different pressure, you know what I mean? And whoever it is, if you're watching any of these players, you can have that argument whether you prefer Maradona. I just think Maradona played 6 games in the European Cup. Now, I know it was different back then. You know, it was straight knockout. But he only in his career played 6 games in the European Cup. He won the World Cup in '86. People say it was a shit Argentina team. That's a bit disingenuous because, again, a lot of players played domestically in those days. You know, there wasn't many that were going. He was playing for Napoli, or I think he was at Napoli at that stage. I think he went to Napoli in '84. So he was at Napoli at that World Cup, and I think Valdano was at Real Madrid, and there was probably only 2 other players. Burachaga could have been at Valladolid, and someone else. There was maybe 4 or 5 that were playing outside Argentina, but they were all solid players, you know what I mean? And they had a good coach as well in Carlos Bilardo, so they were a good team, a good group, good unit, and Maradona carries them. That World Cup, let's be honest, Messi was brilliant in this World Cup. It's a lot of penalties, but Maradona in '86 was just out of this world outrageous. You know what I mean? And no one can argue with that.
Yeah, if you get a chance to go and watch videos of Maradona in the '86 World Cup, genuinely.
The clip that goes around where he sets up all the chances and they missed them all.
Oh yeah.
That's outrageous. Yeah. The stuff he's doing, putting it on plates for lads, it's just...
He goes down the wing and one and they're trying to murder him. And he gets right to the end line, pass across. This fella's out in front of the goal and just kicks her out for
It's mad, this shit. When you think about what it would have been.
But I just think, listen, it's probably one of those where in time, I'll probably just want to go, I don't really fucking care who's the best, bro. They're both brilliant. Watch them both. Like,
longevity.
My son is 3, right? Nearly 3. If he comes up to me in 5 years' time and says, oh, Messi and Maradona, who's the best? I go, just go and watch them both. Because there's no harm in it, trust me.
Yeah.
But what you'll see from both is very similar in the way they played left footed and all that.
It's crazy. It's scary, the comparisons.
It is scary, the comparisons, but I just think the longevity and the fact that he's done it under those circumstances with who he has to follow, I just think is just phenomenal.
He's played over 1,000 games, so I think he probably only 1,003. I think it was during the World Cup, the knockouts, he played his 1,000th game or something like that, and he's got like 1,100 and something goal and assists. So he's got like fucking
goal involvement,
He's over 1,000. Like this is the epitome of consistency for 17 years. Do you know what I mean? Like it's slowing down now. but he's changed his game now. He's tailored his game. He went into PSG and he's a different Messi now, but he's still horsing the assists out of it. You know what I mean? Like he's an outrageous consistency for 17 years.
Yeah,
it's
and like you said, it's not like someone that is a workhorse midfielder where you go, he's been around for 17 years and he's just consistently being a very good number 6
out of 10
or a 7 out of 10 number 8. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This fella is just being ridiculous for 17 years and like just everything. He's done everything. Do you know what I mean? He's absolutely done everything. But listen, at the end of the day, you might go Maradona, you might go Messi, but trust me,
we'll accept that. I won't accept Cristiano Ronaldo.
No. Go and watch both of them. And but genuinely, Maradona in the '86 World Cup is scandalous. The more I think of it now, it's actually scandalous. 792 goals in 1,002 appearances. Says listen, when you add that up,
300 and odd assists.
300 odd assists. Yeah. Well, look, I really enjoyed that, going through the winners and losers of the World Cup.
It's been unusual. As I said, I wasn't expecting to watch much of this World Cup because I didn't have the appetite or the hunger for it going in. It's ironic coming from me, I didn't have the hunger, but I've come out of it. I was going
to laugh at you, but I'm the same.
There you go. I've come out of it with the best feeling in sport that I've had as a fan. Look, I make no bones about it. I'm a huge Messi fan. I'm a huge Argentinian football fan. This is the best result that could have been for me. Outside Ireland doing that, and we all know, that'll just be getting out of the group someday. But, don't knock the Irish because we fucking give it a good bash when we're there. This is the best feeling in sport outside the Liverpool winning the league or the Champions League for me, and it just topped off. It was the thing that I said in the very first game. Argentina got beaten by Saudi Arabia.
You said when Argentina go out, you won't watch anymore.
Yeah, I won't. And I said I tweeted at the time, I said, look, that's terrible. They have to change. When they're gone, I'm not watching. And they got better and better and better. And that was what kept me in. You know what I mean? Morocco, we spoke about, loved them. Loved what they done. Croatia, poxy games, but they had heart and fight. Loved them. Love what they bring to the table. But it was all about Argentina for me. It was all about Messi. It was all about, the finally
the only thing I missed from it, I would have loved to see a Brazil-Argentina semi-final.
Yeah, but I was more worried about the Croatia-Argentina myself. But
because I did feel that Croatia would have been a harder game than Brazil.
I felt they were more tactically hard.
And they're more disciplined in
discipline.
Seeing what they were trying to do. This is probably our last show between me and you before Christmas, is it? Yeah. So are you going to have a nice Christmas?
Do my best, do my best.
Is Die Hard 2 a Christmas film?
Fucking is, yeah.
Of course it is.
It has snow in it. It's that Christmas film. What do you
anyone
want?
that utters the words overarching can fuck off.
It's
a Christmas film. The snow.
HR letter getting issued over
that. The snow, there's Christmas trees. It's a Christmas film. But anyway, will we go out in January for a point?
I think we will, yeah.
Yeah, I think we should. Mid-January, when everyone else is fucking sick of Christmas and drinking, we'll just go out and have a lovely day out, will we?
Yeah, I think we will, yeah.
Will we go to Ryan's and have a lovely load of pints of Guinness?
Yeah.
And then
we could do
what's that place beside it, the burger place? Is it Bunsen? Next door?
Is it? I don't know.
But we'll find somewhere to eat as well. And we bring Shawnee as well.
Yeah, well, he lives up that neck of the woods, doesn't he?
We bring a load of Lawsons with us, will we?
Yeah, the Lawsons are great, aren't they?
Yeah, they're always been a crack, all the Lawsons. Anyway, that has been Winners and Losers, your World Cup edition, with thanks to bookmakers.com. Rest of the week, what day is today? Monday. Tomorrow I'm doing the Liverpool History This Week show. I'm going to do it live tomorrow, so people can get involved and tell me what they think. So I'm going to have to research that tonight and tomorrow. Wednesday we will be doing the midweek fix where we'll preview Man City in the League Cup. Thursday we'll do full-time Reds after the game against Man City. Friday will be the Friday forecast, where we're going to look forward to the Premier League games on Boxing/Stevens' Day, whatever you like to call it. And we'll be off Saturday, we'll be off Sunday. We should be back Monday with a full-time Reds after the game away at Villa. Thanks to Keith, thanks to Gav. I've been great, he's been great. The chat has been amazing as always. Not enough people hitting the like button, but look, there's nothing we can fucking do about it.
Yeah, at this stage.
No, you keep asking them. You keep
asking.
They don't bother the bollocks. That's it. Talk to you in a bit. Over and out.